My name is John Stamkos, and in this video we'll present you Butler. Butler is a implementation manager for applications, laravel applications made with Trident and Vista. Now, if you saw my previous videos, Trident is a package, laravel package in order to build a project scaffolding following domain-driven design and test-driven design principles. Vista is similar in concept with Trident, but it does the same thing with frontend. As we have seen in our previous videos, basically we have JSON files that represent our features, and using those JSON files, which we'll call definitions, we produce scaffolding through CLI commands using Trident and Vista. Now, because the goal is to have definitions for every feature that we build in order to have automatic refactoring and make tests in the future, and automatic tests, I mean. But we need a way to manage all these files because we need to update a lot, we need to create them. So a UI has been built, this UI that does all these things. So let's just log in for a second, and QQ at qq.qq is because Q and at are close to each other. I usually use this email when I'm developing something. Now it's logged in. We see when we first log in, it's just a message that said that this is an implementation manager for our applications made with Trident and Vista, and start with project to make something cool. So if we click projects here, if you saw my previous video, all the links to the articles and the videos and the GitHub will be in the description below. We have used basically this tool in order to create our JSON files that we used in the previous video in order to demonstrate the CLI part of Trident, how we do everything manually from commands. Now the concept is Trident and Vista, they are both packages and basically project that has the Trident and Vista pre-installed together and everything works together. So if we want to create, let's say, a new project, from here we will just hit create, and let's say that we would like to call this new project Trident Vista Project 1, and this must be absolute path. We will put it at home vagrant Trident Vista Project 1. This is the file, the folder that we are putting all of our definitions. If you saw my previous video, this will seem familiar. And again, this is the DB connection name, basically what's the DB connection for this project. Now, one thing that should be mentioned here is in order for this to work, we will have to go, basically every project that's been created with Butler, you need to give it the configuration for where to look for the project that it's inside, which is what database to look for. So just now for convenience, we said, of course, we want to have this DB connection name, which is in the config database, this DB connection name, and of course this is in the connection MySQL, and another DB connection name. And just for convenience, we have the same name of the database schema as we have the connection name. So if we see here, we are in Vagrant. Let's just go quickly in Vagrant. We are inside our homestead, and we can see that we have basically the code. That it has Trident Vista project, and here's a Butler, some other stuff. So if we hit submit, here we create a new project, basically a new record for the project. But not in order to not go and manually just clone the repo to that specific folder, etc., etc., we can just click make here, and that what we'll do, it will actually go and clone this project from the GitHub repository, and when it's done, it will give you instructions here. It will say, okay, it's done, and now just go to that project and composer update in order to get all the PHP packages, npm install in order to get all the node packages, create a key and edit the .env if needed. And this is important, and this is for Butler and for Trident Vista project, that basically because I generally like to develop front-end single-page applications in the adaptive school of thought, the UI. I usually have more than one public folders. Basically, I want one single-page application for every scenario. So I have for the backend and for the frontend, but again I have for the mobile and for the desktop specifically. So generally it will be four public folders for each one for every single page application, and the default public folder that is for Laravel. So we have a public backend mobile, a public backend for front end, I mean public backend desktop, then public front-end desktop, public front-end mobile. So it's convenient for me at least to have all those things separately and built separately. So having said that, if what we need to do when we do this is we need to check that this basically information, the link here, the URL and the relative URL, match this link here, and this is in order for every link to work, all the navigations and stuff. If they don't match, then you will have to update here this part, and npm run production in order to rebuild the UI basically. This is both for the Butler and for Trident and Vista project. So okay, I think we will not need this project. I can just delete it, and this will just delete the record, not the actual project which been created. So let's just delete that. We are going to focus to only for the project that we have created in our previous video and just work on that. So the next menu item is the definitions. The definitions, it's like a more core concept, let's say, for Trident and what we do here, which is a way to define how you implement things. We are calling it models of implementation, basically. So you have a structure that you define how your features or something that you want to implement looks like. And we can actually see it here now in Butler. We have only one definition for a Trident Vista project. And if we go and look at the definition, we can see, I'm in the Butler project, yes. If we go to app, Trident schema hierarchy, this is the definition basically for the Trident Vista project. If we can create one new basically definition, there's only one namespace that we can use. This is our definition, the only thing that it knows as of now, Butler. We can give it a project name, but we have already made that. So this is a very simplistic formula to create a definition. We have already created that, so we're going to use that. But let's just explain a little bit what happens here. So we are just defining, this is our definition that we're going to use for the rest of this video and for this project, that our Trident Vista basically project, it has an entity name, basically our feature, this is how it's called here, and it has a presentation part which follows this namespace, and we will look at it, and there are the resources as we see in the previous video. It has a functionality, a request, and a response. So now we dig down, if we dig into the form, we can see that our presentation, what it looks like, it has an Ajax part which has the basic CRUD, and it expects here URL endpoints, and the presentation part which expects basically schema which has this scenario. Now for the Trident, it's what we have seen in our previous videos. It has a model, it has a request, it has a response. This is similar to the videos that we have seen as of now. So basically we can see that from these definitions we can understand a lot of what we're going to build. This is mostly the reason of creating all these things, because we use these definitions in order to check validations for JSONs or other stuff inside our code. We have basically a common common rules in order to check against for everything that we implement, and this can lead to many automations in the when you start using it like that. So what we say, what we know about our Trident and Vista project, it has entities, and those entities has presentation and resources. It also has processes, but this is a work in progress. Process is a way to define steps basically in our feature, but this will be implemented in the future. So as of now, we have the presentation and the resource. The presentation has this form, as we have seen it here, and the resource has what is already been shown in previous videos, which has the functionality, request and response. So if we move on from that, we said that we're going to use this definition, and we hit the entities, which is in Trident's terms. Entities basically is how we say features in domain-driven design, or generally features in the software development world. We have seen now we have already one record, which is for the test features that we've made in our previous video. Basically, the JSON files that we used in our previous video, they were made with using this tool. So for today, we're just going to leave that to create a new one from the beginning. So we need to basically select our definition first. We have this one project, so we'll use the one definition that we have here and just call that another. Let's submit that. It's been saved. Okay, now this is a blank new entity feature. So if we go inside of it, okay, as you see here, there are all the different definitions. There are places in order to just create the data that we need for the JSON files. No, how this will work is that we will put data here, and this data will then be checked against the definitions for their correctness, and after that it will move forward and create other JSON. So this is one of the things that definitions are useful, because you have a central place that you check everything that you implement, and then you have a place that you can see how all basically the thing that we're implementing works, because they show reference to each other and show implementation details. So for this project, we have collected the database. I believe we have called it. Okay, let me just refresh that. We have called it Trident and Vista project. We click here the DB name, which is it's present to us a drop-down list. Now, because it sees all the database, it also sees the different tables that Laravel has created by default. So basically, we can create a feature for any table. But for now, because we have done it previously, we will create for the test feature. And the generate default values is useful, and especially in the beginning, because when we hit that, what we actually do is that it will go to the database, to this table, and understands what are the column types, tries to, it will first fill in all the table rows that we are needed, and tries to find out what type it is, and just make everything here. So okay, one thing that and now we just edit these two tables in order to have it as we are expecting it. So one thing that we certainly don't know as a request parameter is the create data and updated that. So I'm just going to delete them in the beginning. And then for everything else, let's say for sure we want this to be an integer. I know that this is kind of the ID and the user ID. It's kind of mandatory for now to be an integer in order to be used. We're going to do the same here, and it's true also. And I think we can leave the rest as is. Okay, we can. Let's change this also to string for now, and we will talk about it again later while we're doing this change. Basically, the thing is, we can do it two ways. We can change the code in the controller of what the expected type is, or change the validation, or you know what? Let's not change this now. Let's just leave it as is, and just come back again later to see what's the problem and how to fix it. We're just going to say that this is true and save it. This also, and this. And I think we will need them all, so we'll just make them all true for now. Then we have created a new feature, which we call another feature. We see its details. We say that it will look the test feature table from the database for this project that we are using, and have basically this as a request and this a response. If we go back to the list and we hit generate, let's just see the project that we have now. I think we don't need that. Let's just clear. There is nothing here. We have nothing. What we'll do, it will create the JSON file that we saw in our previous video, and at the same time also run the Trident generate command in order to create all the boilerplate for this feature, all the CRUD operations for following how we said it the domain-driven design, test-driven design principles. So if we go here now, also there are a lot of files made. These were the JSONs that we have specified in our table. We can see here that this is the request, and we remove the create data that. The other, all the other things is how we have specified them. The response is the same. And then because the cool thing here is that we have created the different layers, because everything has interfaces and everything is dependency injected. It also makes the binds automatically. It knows because now we have set to look at specific database. It knows how to create a model and it automatically creates the model. It also does the default policy, which is the user that creates can also list, deletes, updates what it does. We have now repositories also created, resources, sorry, also created. So they are filled in with the data that we have said, and the same goes for the structs, the strict types. So I think now we can go and log into our Trident Vista project. Now, Trident Vista project, we have used it in our previous video. We will use it now. Now, this is the default UI that's when you are installing the Trident Vista project. This is the default UI that's built. Basically, it has a very simplistic, let's say, UI UX. You have just a menu here which has some options, and you can have sub options to those options here that are not shown. You can have a sub menu here that drops down, but it's not shown at the moment. So we have created basically our backend here, but how are we going to interact with the database? So this is where the Vista part now comes in. So if we go back and go to the views, okay, we have no view now, so we'll just create a new view. And we're going to use the entity that we have just created. So we're in the project, one definition that we have, and we'll use the another feature. Let's say that it's another feature, the name of what we're going to create, and hit submit. We don't need to change anything else for now. Okay, so this is just a blank view. If we go to edit, again, this will have a similar, it has a similar concept as it had in the entities. If you remember, let's just see that here, this basically definition which has these two parts, the Ajax and presentation, and this has been reflected here. It has the Ajax and the presentation. And in a similar way, the button is similar in what is for the features, for the entities. If we hit that, it will go and pre-fill everything that we need for us. So one thing that I know that's different is that if we look at what we are generating as an endpoint in Trident, we will see that we have in a lowercase the a. So I think that will be made in a, will be fixed in a future. For this, I believe we don't need the. I think for the forms we don't need created that updated. We also don't need use ID. ID will be generated automatically and user ID is from the backend. So I think now when, because again, this button goes to the database in order to get all the data. Of course, when we see in the presentation, it just put all the columns, but we don't need all the columns for now. So we just deleted everything and kept only this. So if we submit it, it's successful. Now we have a new record in the database. And again, we haven't done anything as of now because this is just a record. But if we click generate, What we'll do, but Vista has many similarities with Trident, and it just we created a JSON file with a form, and we used a similar command that we did in Trident, and created the appropriate front end for it. So we see here that the new front end, basically a create, list, delete, and update was created. All the routes have been created and registered. We have three basically endpoints and storage for the appropriate route. So now everything is working together. We have created the front end as specified and the back end as specified. So if we go here, okay, I think we can create a menu, a quick menu for this. So let's just go to create a menu here. Okay, I think we can delete all of this. Okay, we want this one for sure. Okay, so let's say if I refresh, just need to remove this in order for the menu to be rebuilt. So yes, now we have built just a menu item. If we click it, we see now this is what we have created. I think I can also show to you what is the structure of the UI that's been created. Basically, it's a simplistic, let's say, project. We have a navigation, we have all the menus here. We just edited that file. Then automatically, there are three forms created: the list update, create, and list delete, update, and create, which basically does a CRUD. And storage for every specific page has been created, and the routes have been basically here registered, and also storage for those new routes. So if we go here, let's just create a new entry and set something that is of for sure unique. Here's the problem that I was talking about earlier. Let's just see that again. Yes, it says that the validation validate does not exist. Okay, what we need to do here is let's go basically to the controller and see. Okay, when we're creating, we're expecting basically through the validations to have we need to make the correct validation, but here we haven't specified anything. We need to change that, and we change it to string for now. Okay, let's go here. Okay, I think I overstepped this when I was making it. So let's just make everything a string. Because this is what the error said now, that we had an unknown validation basically. That is submitted, and now we have generated everything. But now that we have changed the definitions, we click the code. Oop, that was not like that. It changed. It's now everything is a string, and it's validated as a string. So if we go here again and we try this again, okay, let's see what went wrong this time. This is the other thing now. What we're saying here, let's just go back to the definition. Okay, here, this is another problem now, that even if we said that the rule is integer, Laravel would create that rule here. It will say that it will be an integer, but the request all, it will return an array with the value as a string. The rule might be an integer, but the value that it will return by this function would be a string. And what we have done, we have said that we are expecting this to be an integer, a real type integer. And this is what causes the problems. We could either change that here and specify that the value is integer, basically cast the request value integer here, or I think we will make for the more easy option now, which will just for now, we will change what we're expecting to get inside the domain. And you see now it's way easier to do refactorings. And the good thing is if you have everything here basically defined, then it's easier to do things like that. So if we go back and we hit update again, it will say that it's updating. And now if we see here and we go to it changed to string. So now after all that, if we hit submit, okay, everything passed now. So if we go back in our list, okay, we will see that we have a new entry, and this is a real entry. If you remember from the beginning of the video, we started from scratch. We had nothing. So now, so I don't know how many time, because I'm doing in one sitting here. It's maybe 20 minutes that this video is running. From nothing, we have created the backend boilerplate, following basically with everything defined as I said in the previous video, with a good structure, that everything separate from each other and everything is dependency and injected with interfaces. We have good validations for everything, and we have created also the front end, which is okay, at least for now. So we have done all this, and in like I don't know how many few minutes we have created the whole code functionality for this table. Of course, the edit works. So if it would change that to we use, okay, let's just value and submit it. It said success. If we go back, we see that it's changed to you, and we can see in our database that it's yes, that it's reflected because we changed it. And of course, if we go here and delete, actually make the deletion. We see that it's missing from here, and if we update the database, we see that the record is gone. This was the main goal of the project, this UI and for Trident and Vista. The thing is, in order to build, at least from my perspective, to build software faster, better, you would have to do more scaffolding and basically make the scaffolding smarter than it's is used as of now. And by smarter, I mean that first we have to have good architecture for in order for everything to be tested. I mean, everything should be tested as of now, and define all the things that we're expecting and how we're expecting them, and making testing actually gives you confidence to the app, and you know exactly if you change things what reflects everywhere. And the goal here is that we create a structure that we know that is it can be easily tested. Of course, this can be also improved further, but we know that it's testable because we do everything through interfaces. I mean, we create all the interfaces that are needed in order for this to work. So, and the way that these different layers work to with each other, it's using the dependency injection basically from the dependency injection container of laravel. So automatically, when we make changes, these dependency injections are also being updated. So we don't have to worry about it, because when you're doing something that is in the DDD architecture, domain-driven design architecture, one of the things that you find out really quick is that you need to write a lot of code in order to make these things happen. There is a lot of manual labor in this. And this tool tries basically to solve the problem of this manual labor. And so in order to have you set up everything and you just then go and create your functionality. And the added benefit is that if we can make it and have basically all the functionalities defined, then we can do, as we saw here in this video, automatic refactorings. And if you think about it now, for this specific feature, we have the inputs, the request, we have the output, the response, and we know the database table, which means, and this is what like the next goal is for the foreseeable future, to be able to make automated tests, because we know how the code works, and and you use the PHP parser in order to analyze code in order for me to be able to create basically some of the functionality for basically how to make the binds and create some interfaces. So we can use the same functionality in order to create at least the integration and feature tests for every feature that we build, because we know the data. The data basically it's been defined, and the good thing what would it should be easy to do is to have these definitions as up to date as possible, because in the end, as you can see for using this tool and a better version of it in the future, you can have more functionalities to be added, and basically everything will be more manageable. So I don't think I need to go on a more roundabout now on this. I will just want to make a quick recap. Basically, in the three videos that I have explained as of now, we saw the Trident, which is a package in order to create project scaffolding following domain-driven design, test-driven design principles. Vista is a similar project that does this scaffolding for the front end, and we have the features defined with definitions that we just say in a code readable format what the feature that we're implementing looks like. And this is good because then we can refactor everything using code generation as we saw here. And when, of course, we're making definitions for every feature, we need an easier way, basically, to manage all those files and all those commands. So Butler is a UI that has been built for this purpose. You create the projects here, you create your definitions, and then if you want to change something, you go to edit, and it will load, you update it, and you update again your code. Thank you for watching. This is it for now, and I hope to see you again. All right, goodbye.